Hi, everybody. My name is Chandani,
And I'm Evan.
and today we'll be talking about the impact of COVID-19, typical drinking norms, and loneliness among college students. So, as you may know, a potent predictor of alcohol use in college students is their risky social involvement. The COVID-19 pandemic has introduced problems with increased loneliness, isolation, and different living situations. These issues have no doubt impacted the way college students spend their time and how they behave, especially when it comes to coping with this recent change in socializing and being alone. The COVID-19 pandemic has also disrupted traditional drinking behaviors and socialization within peers. This study examines how the pandemic has affected college students' drinking behavior in relation to isolation. So we wanted to test three questions. The first being, have college students' drinking norms related to weekday and weekend drinking changed due to the COVID-19 pandemic? And we think overall college students will report drinking more throughout the week rather than the typical drinking days, given the changes of social drinking norms exaggerated by the pandemic. Our second question wants to know whether college students' alcohol use during the COVID-19 pandemic predicts symptoms of loneliness and social isolation. And we think college students who drink more will report more symptoms of loneliness during the pandemic, as they may be drinking alone rather than with peers. Our last question tests whether living alone during the pandemic predict internalizing symptoms such as loneliness. And we think that due to the lack of socialization among peers, students who report living alone during the pandemic will exhibit more symptoms of loneliness than those who don't live alone.
So for this study, we analyzed data from our data set to see if living situation predicted symptoms of loneliness alongside covariates such as age, gender identity, and socioeconomic status. The second model tested if symptoms of loneliness predicted alcohol use alongside the same covariates. This sample included 364 UNCG students who were on average 19 years old, and the diverse sample included 71.2% identifying as female, 21.7% identifying as male, and 6.6% identifying as another gender identity. The participants were recruited using UNCG's SONA system pool, to which they were compensated 2 SONA credit hours upon completion of the survey. Cross-sectional data was collected in the fall 2020 semester, where students reported on frequency of alcohol use, living arrangement, and feelings of past month loneliness using the UCLA Loneliness scale. In separate models, we regressed past month alcohol use, binge drinking, and past month number of drinks on loneliness. We then regressed internalizing symptoms on living situation. In all models, we controlled for participants' age, gender identity, and socioeconomic status. Lastly, we used a timeline followback to determine if participants were drinking more on weekends or on weekdays.
So for the results, we found out that 62.5% of drinks were consumed on the weekend and 37.5% of drinks were consumed on the weekdays. The most common drinking day was Saturday, with 36.3% of drinks consumed, and Wednesday being the least common drinking day, with 3.6 drinks consumed. Interestingly, drinking behavior remained stable throughout the week, Sunday to Tuesday, with around 10 to 12% of drinks consumed. For alcohol use, we found that participants who were older reported more times drinking per month in the current sample. Socioeconomic status was unrelated to any alcohol use items tested within our models, and unexpectedly, loneliness was not associated with past time drinking, binge drinking, or the number of drinks consumed. For loneliness, participants who were older experienced more symptoms of loneliness. Those identified as other than male or female were less lonely. Socioeconomic status was unrelated to loneliness within our model, and living situation did not significantly predict feelings of loneliness.
So our research does not indicate that loneliness was a significant predictor of past month alcohol use in the current sample during the unique challenges faced by college students during the COVID-19 pandemic. The use of online communication may have been an important protective factor against symptoms of loneliness, but we did not include that as part of our study. It's beneficial to know from our findings that the drinking norms did not appear to be directly impacted by COVID-19 loneliness, though it was in opposition of our hypothesis. It's still important. The normative drinking culture has a strong reputation, which acknowledges that college drinking is a serious public health concern, and we're interested in further exploring this concern. UNCG may not have a strong drinking culture, which is why drinking may be low, which is another reason for the rationale of our findings. Now, some limitations of our study is that our sample is mostly female, suggesting that results could have been altered if there were a larger population of other genders. Only 8.5% of our sample were reporting living during the pandemic. The cross-sectional experimental design also did not allow for us to have data prior to the pandemic to compare with our current data. Students may have untruthfully answered their alcohol usage, since not all students are of age is another major limitation that we have in this study. However, we do have some strengths, such as multiple indicators of alcohol use, a large sample size, and a racially and ethnically diverse sample. And we just wanted to give our thanks to Dr. Jensen, Greg Chase, Ashley Rendon, and Antasia Stanback for all of their assistance, and also to you listeners for taking the time to view our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.